Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered Call-In Show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hey, everybody. How you doing? I just had to stop a little extra noise that was happening on my side before I opened it up. So hopefully you are having an amazing start to your week. I know we said we was going to do this on Wednesday, but whatever happened for me got canceled. So I had to make sure that I come at my regular time, make sure that we're all good, and just kind of go from there. So how you doing this week? How are things going? In terms of me, everything's good. Everything's good. It's just a good week, right? A good start to the week. Got a nice CSM class happening right now. We're coming toward the end of the year. So the end of the year is just a super amazing thing. It's just an amazing place to be. So I'm actually really excited about what we got going on. So it's just nothing but additional pluses, extra pluses. So I just really love it. So we're here. We're doing our thing. We're making sure it happens. Again, I know I said it was going to happen on Wednesday, but I had to bring it back to Monday because things got canceled for me. So I send notifications out, so we're kind of good. So that being said, our topic tonight is going to be about defining freedom in 2024. I'm going to talk to you about this from my perspective because I think that it's a unique thing to really challenge yourself on because last week we talked about setting goals that maximize cash and freedom, right? And really the first thing in that was defining your why. And so we're gonna dive a little bit deep into that today and just get your thoughts, see what you think about it, and go from there. Other than that, what's going on? I'm actually starting to look forward to next year. That's really if there's anything that really is exciting me, it's really the prospects of 2024, right? 2023 seemed like a year that was getting back to normal. I get all these signs that things are going to get even more normal next year in terms of the job market, even though it's going to be a different kind of job market. So a lot of people are going to be out there turning this scrum thing into greatness. I was talking about a commercial I seen, but I'll bring that up later. I saw this commercial and remind me to tell you about this commercial later and a perspective about it because I saw it and I mentioned it to the class today. And I'm like, I'm not sure is that 100% true, but we'll see and we'll deal accordingly. Now, here's how this show operates so you know and understand. We talk about the topic at hand. That's what we do, right? Whatever that topic is, tonight is defining freedom in terms of 2024. Now, here's the deal. With that topic, we talk about it for about 25 minutes. And then what we do is we open the floor for any questions, and we will answer questions up to 9 o'clock. If people don't have questions, then we just go ahead and close down and move on from there. But the biggest part is talking about that topic in the very beginning, which I think is an important, and you can get Scrum education units from actually attending here. So just know it can be a part of continuing education, probably within PMI as well as in the Scrum Alliance and then amongst many other places. So just know that. So we're kind of sitting pretty and good here. So I'm actually pretty happy, pretty good, I'm pretty everything, right? Yeah. I'm gonna say handsome everything. Pretty is silly. Well, ladies should be pretty. I don't consider myself pretty. Now, that being said, just a lot of little things to talk about. So, here's the deal. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the topic for the night. And really kind of get into that topic and really talk to you all about it. So, let's start that topic, right? So, The topic of the day is really defining freedom in 2024, right? And defining freedom in 2024 is just an interesting place to be because I really do believe that if you're going to be free of the shackles that you have in 2023, you probably need to make goals to get out of them shackles in 2024. So and then if it takes you longer than 2024, you at least have taken positive steps in the right direction. Now, for me, one of the biggest things that I had to do was say to myself, what does freedom kind of look like for me? What does freedom look like for me? And I have a way that I look at it, and I'm curious if this applies to you as well. So let's talk about this a little bit more, okay? The first thing that I want to talk to you about here is just that aspect of freedom, right? For me, when I think about freedom, freedom is multifaceted for me, right? What I know for sure is that freedom resonates to each one of us differently, okay? For some of us, it's about having the ability to travel freely, right? For some of us, it's about financial independence. For others, it's about having time to spend life or have more moments as you choose to have those moments. To pursue passions maybe that you have, right? Maybe to, do social service and be involved in philanthropy, right? These are things that people think about and dream about on a regular basis. So one of the first things that you have to understand is your why, right? And I always have a clear why to the reasons why I do almost anything. Now, if I was to really boil this down, I really have 5 parts or there's 5 corners here, right? Or 5 planes. And I like to go through these 5 planes with you, starting off really at the very top. Because the top plane for me is what I'm going to call time freedom, right? For me, the most important element that exists in my life is time, because it doesn't matter how much money I'll get paid. I'm really cognizant about wasting. It's crucial for me not to waste time, right? If I was to ask you today, if somebody was going to give you $10 million today, but you only have one day to live, would you actually accept that offer? $10 million, but you have one day to live. And I wouldn't accept it for more money than that. And so if your answer is you wouldn't accept that money, probably time is more valuable than money. So the question that you got to ask yourself is, how are you spending your time? I mean, I know a lot of us have those traditional 9 to 5s, and even that today is evolving into more flexible work arrangements. But for some of us, we want even more control over our time than that, right? And so you're going to have to figure out what are those things that take up the majority of your time. I mean, and some of the things that you can do to help you, get more time freedom, especially if you're not going to leave your job, right? You can make sure that you get more flexible work arrangements, right? Do more remote work. There's many of us that's doing that today, and that could be very helpful for you. For me, time freedom was more about establishing an organization, establishing a business. Now, I have, at least I've had mentors and I have family members who have achieved time freedom. And so I'm really just copying the blueprint that they put in front of me. And so for me, it was establishing a business, or a minimum being a consultant, instead of being a 9 to 5 employee. But whether you do flexible work arrangements, work from home, build your own business, be a consultant, those are ways to move in that direction. Another thing I try to do is prioritize tasks and responsibilities to maximize my efficiency. I mean, literally, I prioritize the major things in my life, so and then as things come up, they go against the priorities that I've set. So and then I can put things in their proper place. You need to also make sure you protect your time. Protecting your time is going to be extremely important because, I mean, there's a ton of vultures out here, right? And vultures will suck up your time in a heartbeat and not give you anything in return for it, not give you a single thing in return for it. So I want you to be real careful about vultures sucking up your time, okay? And then one of the things I was just having a conversation about earlier today is just having too many commitments, overcommitting yourself, right? Adding things to your list. Be careful about that because if you continue to add things to your list, I don't care how much time you have, you're just not going to have enough time for yourself whatsoever. So for me, if there's a number one thing, it is time. Time freedom is absolutely critical to me. Now, for me, there are things that kind of hold up the foundation of time freedom for me, right? So, one of those things that holds up the foundation of time freedom for me is financial freedom. Financial freedom is just one of those things that allows me to have time, allows me to have more time that I choose that I like to have, right? And so that's probably the main reason why I set up a business. And here's the deal. I don't look at financial freedom as my top priority. It really is time that's my top priority, and finances facilitate that. It helps position me for that. And so, you don't have to be wealthy, but for a lot of us, you got to move beyond living paycheck to paycheck, right? You got to make sure that your debts are manageable. You got to make sure that maybe those debts are completely eliminated, right? So managing your expenses are extremely important, right? And so it's not always about making the most money you can. Sometimes it's about spending as little as you can, right? So I would say make sure you set some clear financial goals, right? In terms of things that you desire to achieve. Make sure you be realistic about your budget, what you're saving. When I start off as a consultant, I made sure that we put away 6 months worth of savings, just to buffer the start. Because realistically, if I be real honest with you, when I started Bearded Eagle, it was 120 days till we got paid. Like in terms of going into doing a business to business kind, it was literally 120 days. So it was like they didn't have to pay us until day 90, and then we got the money 30 days after that. I mean, we had to take a check to the bank. The check took 7 days to clear it. Only gave us X amount of dollars. So it was 120 plus days. So think about it was about 130 days before we actually got paid, right? And so not having that buffer would have killed us. And at that time we had the kids and everything else. So it just wouldn't have worked. And so, even trying to start the business, it was very important to make sure that I had the money put away. I had realistic savings there. And we managed during that 4 to 5 month period. We had a budget that we managed, meticulously, right? Now, I'm also going to say to you what I said to you last week. Multiple income streams is always going to be helpful. Those little side hustles, they help to bring in a little bit of cash. And so finally, make sure you think long term about all this stuff, okay? So one of the foundational elements is going to be financial for me, right? Another foundational element for me that's extremely important to me is going to be emotional and mental freedom. Like, and this points to me and my well-being, right? There's a couple things about me that you all may not know. I really like my life to be extremely stable. Finances bring one element to that, but my mentality needs to be stable as well. My emotions need to be stable as well. I get that there's ups and downs, but for the most part, the ride is pretty stable with me, right? And so my emotional well-being gives me peace of mind, and my emotional and mental states drive my peace. I mean, they legitimately drive my peace. And if they didn't drive my peace, then I feel a little bit different, but they truly drive my peace, and I like to maintain my peace. all the way through, all day, every day. I always do everything I can to maintain my peace. So just know that's another thing that's just kind of in my mind. So foundationally, my time is really set up by my emotional and mental states and financial freedom. So I want to be free in both of those areas. And those things help me to establish or to have more time. Now, when it comes to emotional and mental freedom, that does something really special for me with my time. It allows me to set up healthy relationships. Healthy relationships. Now, I want to have healthy relationships where there's an exchange, where people are supportive of me, where I can be supportive of them, where I have, connections that fill my heart with joy, right? I don't want a bunch of gossip. I don't want a bunch of toxic, talk, toxic anything, right? I don't want any undue stress. And so when I really just kind of just take a step back and I look at relationships, right? I just want to foster relationships that help me to create a positive environment, create a lot of positivity and joy. Where I got those healthy boundaries, both in my personal life and professional life, where I can meet new people and establish the right kind of connection with them, right? And then I also want to be able to eliminate, let go, lessen the time that I spend in terms of relationships that aren't so positive, that are not so positive. So, I mean, it just is one of those things where I want to really take care of it and make sure that I have those healthy relationships. Okay? So, really, really extremely important. And finally, what this drives me toward is something really important, and that is passion pursuit. Passion pursuit. You all have wonderful things that you want to work on or work toward, right? And you want to have the freedom to chase your dreams, to chase your passions, right? Whether it is, let's just say you want to write a book, for example. You want to write a book. Having the time to do that is great, especially if you say to yourself, you just want to write a book to get some things off your chest, to just put it in the universe, right? I don't need this to be a bestseller. I'm not looking at this book to be the thing that's going to build the rest of my life. I just want to write a book because I want to, right? For me, probably the biggest passion I have is around genealogy. Genealogy, my comic book collection, stuff like that, right? So those things put me in a position where with more of all these things, I get to pursue my passion, right? Because if you go back to my beginnings, all I really want to do with my time is be a junk man. In terms of being a junk man, I have to make sure that certain things are taken care of. My financial, my emotional well-being, I have solid relationships, and to really be a junk man, it allows me to pursue the passions that I want to pursue. So for me, all 5 of these freedoms are extremely important to my everyday well-being, to my everyday health, right? And I absolutely love this as just this way of moving forward in terms of life. And so this is one of those things where this is why I think you take the time to find your why. Because in finding your why, you'll be able to look at these things and figure out how these things apply to you or how they work for you in the world that you exist in. So think about freedom for yourself. You think about freedom for yourself. You think about what you desire in freedom, especially in 2024. Just take a little bit of time to reflect on what freedom means to you, right? And it's likely going to be a mix of these things. For me, this combination of things is what I call freedom. But it's all these things, right? And the more I do each one of them, the more I put a little bit of time to focus in on each one of them, the more I establish freedom in any one of these areas, it helps my overall well-being and how I feel about freedom, right? So you taking the time to define what freedom looks like means you can start taking steps toward achieving that freedom, toward making that freedom happen. You just got to make sure that your goals are achievable, right? You just got to make sure you create goals that are achievable. Whether you create a vision board, you create, some type of roadmap. I don't care what you do. Take small steps to get there so you can be good to go. Now, as you look here, the things that I talked to you about, I want to repeat them to you like I always do every single time. The first one that I talked to you about was time. Time freedom is the most important thing to me because I hate to waste time. And everything else kind of supports that. Financial freedom was the second thing. Financial freedom, in essence, supports my time freedom. Personal, emotional, mental stability, right? That freedom right there means that I have peace of mind. Being able to have the right connections or relationships is also a freedom I want to have, but I want them to be supportive, and I want them to be positive. I want to remove the negatives away from me. And then you have that pursuit of your passion. That pursuit of your passion is kind of what we all want to get to. But I need the other four to pursue my passion. And so the more I pursue my passion, the more I've driven into the other four. So I just want to make sure that that's really clear to you. And I want you to take some time to make sure that you define what freedom looks like for you. What freedom looks like for you. And if you do that, you take just 20 minutes to spend some time on it. I think you'll come up with something absolutely fabulous for yourself. Okay? Now, that being said, that's all I want to say about freedom. Okay? And I want to make sure that we make time to open up the floors. I know that we changed the date, but the idea is I want to open up the floor and see if there's anyone that have any questions that they would love for us to answer about either freedom or about a question that you have about Scrum and Agile. Now, if you don't know, I've been around Scrum and Agile since 2005. I'm a certified Scrum trainer, so I actually help and I answer lots of questions related to Scrum. So my question for you is, do you have any questions related to Scrum? If you don't, that's fine. If you do, you're welcome to drop those questions in the chat. Otherwise, you can join us live. So, do me a favor, say hi if you're here. I don't expect all our normal audience to be here because we said we weren't going to go today, but the plans changed, so it was a go. I said I'll always be here on Mondays. If I'm available, I'm going to be here. So things have changed, and that's okay. I think next week we're going to work on SMART goals. I think there's a lot of people asking me about SMART goals, and I think it's time to really have another discussion about SMART goals. So I'll ask, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat for us. Please do that. Otherwise, I'm going to double check to see if there's any questions on LinkedIn or Facebook. I would advise, if you're under any one of those platforms, to join us over here on YouTube to be able to interact. And we can go from there. Let's see. So yeah, just nothing but happiness. Oh, that's interesting. I just learned something about the application that I do all this stuff through. It's actually telling me a little bit more information than it used to. It might have been there before and I just wasn't checking it, right? I don't know. It just is what it is, right? So, that being said, it doesn't look like we have many questions tonight, and that's okay. And so, let's see. Dave, right? Okay, so I have my guy Dave Cornelius, who should be on LinkedIn, who should be on YouTube, right? Dropping a question here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw that question out in the comments on LinkedIn, and then what I'll do is I'll just add it. This is Dr. Dave, and what Dr. Dave is saying here is, how do you build financial freedom while building a non-certification course? The truth of the matter is, Dr. Dave, what I would say to you, in my experience, what I do is I find the right fit client first and figure out what to do with that right fit client to turn them into a raving fan. And so I think the key to that is about finding that right fit client. Because here's one of the issues that we have in the agile space, and you know this already, Dr. Dave. We actually build a lot of certifications just because we want to, and a lot of times there's no real pull for that certification. And we need to go back to establishing a customer base and then building the content around the customer base. Build it around what the customer is looking for and what the customer needs. And so when it comes to non-certification anything, well, even if it was a certification, it almost doesn't even matter because every certification is not valuable. A user, they have, or at least a customer, has to feel like it's valuable to them in some kind of way. And unfortunately, our space is so muddled with certifications and just people who don't have the real expertise putting things out here that we just don't, it's hard to win without a certification. So for me, Dr. David, goes back to those basic business practices of realistically running those experiments to figure out that right fit client, that right fit customer, and finding ways to turn that right fit customer into a raving fan. So that's what I would say, which really has less to do with, it can turn into financial freedom for sure. But in terms of building that non-certification course, it's about the right fit client more than anything else, right? But I believe Dr. Dave already knows that. Dr. Dave runs a whole organization, business, have all kinds of things that's going. It's ultimately great for Dr. Dave. So Dr. Dave, to just give me a call, brother. You just know that. So just call me. We can holler and talk about it seriously. You know that already, okay? So that being said, any other questions, whether on LinkedIn or right here on YouTube? I even got Facebook open, right? Normally Facebook, there's really not anybody there. I just decided to start putting it there just for the heck of it. I have family members that don't know what the hell I do. So since they don't, I just kind of say, you know what, let me just come over here and see if someone would at least look. And they don't look. They don't look at all. I just be like, but I did this. And they're like, I didn't even know what you was talking about, man. My brother told me, he said, sometimes I just watch you because you're my brother. I have no clue what you're talking about, but I just watch you because you're my brother. I'm just like, you should try to understand what I'm telling you. It probably would help you out if you would do just a little bit of that. Just a little bit. So I'll just be like, okay, this is what it is, right? So I can't get around that, right? So that being said, let me go back here. Any questions? Miss White, how you doing? Hello, hello, hello. If you haven't said hello yet, do me a favor, drop the hello in the chat. Let me know that you're there, right? So I can say hi back to you. But one more time, other questions? Anybody with any questions that we would love to answer? My question for you all is, what y'all doing for the holidays? And who gonna invite me over so I can have some of the food? Where's my invitation? That's the real question. I be inviting you all into my house, in my world. Where's the invitation? That's my statement. What you doing for the holidays and where my invitation at, right? Yeah, Dr. Cornelius, you should be over on YouTube as Dr. Dave. You should be over here on YouTube. But Dr. Dave said this, and I'll drop it here in chat. Love the experiments reference to the right fit customer and it transformed him into a raving fan. Yeah, I just know that's what you have to do. There's no question. It is the creation of Bearded Eagle was created off of finding the right fit client and turning those right fit clients into raving fans. And we were able to find a niche, which in the certification space, that actually allowed us to trigger that niche and then show value in terms of training different. And that training different turned many people into raving fans. And so, but it took us, in terms of training, man, it took us at least a year to figure that out. At least a year. It was at least a year to figure that out. Because it's a real slow go in the beginning. Even with the CST, it was a slow go. It was a real slow go. But finding that niche was really important, because our right fit client fell right into that niche, and then we turned them into a raving fan. Every single class, we turned into raving fans, and that turned into, like, for example, I did a weekend class in Indianapolis early on. That turned into three major clients that I still do work with today. And that was back in 2013, maybe 2014, because it took us a while to get on our feet, right? Um, so yeah, but that's what happened. A weekend class of 10 people turned into three clients that I still have relationships to this very day. So it is one of those things, but it was like I put on a show, but I really turned the people in the room that was the right fit client into a raving fan. I remember I would go to one side of the room doing a certain part, right? I would go to one side of the room on a certain part. I'll drop that for you, Dr. Day. I would go to one side of the room, like when we started talking about agile, and then I'd run to the other side of the room. Like I'd make that, it was just a part of the show. And I just would do that every single time I had that, especially in the beginning. I did it every single time because I needed a way to set myself up different. And there's a cadence that I operate within that's almost can be hypnotic to like a Baptist preacher. And so I also make sure that I think about that as well. So for me, when I go back to it, I go back to the simple fact that it was experiments in the very beginning. It took us about a year with those experiments, but the truth is, once I started figuring out that right niche, we found our right fit client. We took our right fit client and turned them into raving fans. That was critical for us, right? And I wouldn't say to do it any different, because no matter how much money you spend, you got to find that right fit client first. You don't find that right fit client, you will spend Gugav's money and won't get it right. And won't get it right at all, right? And so, but you do that through experiments. I mean, if you got bank like that, then do it. Hire all the people on the planet and go do it. But if you don't have bank like that, then I would say run some experiments and figure it out. And then once you start getting that raving fan, those raving fans will invite other people in. They will. So really, really extremely important. Super important, right? Super duper important. So yeah. So that was good, Dr. Dave. That was a good question. I like that question, right? So just, it just is what it is, right? And so you all know, I last week I stated that this would happen on Wednesday because I had this appointment, and the people who had the appointment with had to cancel. And so, I put the show back to today, right? So that we can do it. But I sent out a notification early, and, everybody's not on the notification, obviously. But it's all good. It's all good. The video will be available for people on Wednesday. Other questions? Any other questions that you all have? Drop them in the comments, or you're welcome to join me live. If you want to join me live, that's cool. But if you want to join me live, it will require for you to do this. Join me right there. So if you want to join me live, you join me live by going right there. Okay? And I'll bring you on live and we could talk face to face. Virtually face to face. Because we're not face to face, but virtually face to face, we can do that. So love it can always happen. So just trying to do those things. But man, I just remember how hard it was in those early days of BE. Just trying to get people to be interested when you're an unknown in the space. I mean, being a Scrum coach, Agile coach, you make a name for yourself. But that name doesn't always translate into other stuff. It just does not. And it's like one of those things where, I tried to do the bankable breakthrough event, and the bankable breakthrough event flopped. It flopped because I haven't found my right fit client, right? And I tried to skip a few steps, And skipping those few steps just showed how much it didn't work. We ran advertising. That advertising had 4,000 people click on the link, but they did not click to join the event. So if I have 4,000 people go to a website and they still don't click to join the event, I was grabbing the wrong people. Especially for an event that was just $197 or $297, something like that. So not a big spend for a 3-day event. So we was gonna go in and there was gonna be a lot of great information, but my mistake was skipping steps. And with me skipping steps, that means that I didn't have my right for client. And I suffered because of that, because the event didn't go, right? And I did something for the people who they paid, but the idea is that it was my fault, right? And I know better. I know better because I realized even with the PhD program, with doing the life stuff I had to do, I just really didn't spend time like I was supposed to, making sure that I had the right fit client, and it just flopped, and that's okay. It's okay. It's a lesson learned for me. I probably spent a few $100s on that experiment, and I know better now. Now I know I have to build it a little bit slower, more organically, and that's okay. My objective in 20, one of my objectives in 2024 is to do that, right? And then build a name for my space in that place. And I got some tricks and some experiments I'm gonna run to make it work. And then by the time I'm done with the PhD, I'll be ready to do it. Okay, I probably got 2 more years in the PhD, depending on if I want to go slower. If I want to go slow like I'm going, or speed up my pace, it really depends, right? So that is just what it really takes, right? Um, uh, Talk about some of the steps. When you talk about the steps, Dr. Dave, you talk about the steps to Dr. Dave. You should just come on the show so we can talk, or we could just take it offline and talk privately about it. Um, in terms of some of the steps, um, the thing that's really ridiculous is that I present in the CSPO class that I do. I present, um, I present many of the things. Well, not all of them, right? So some of the things that we classically do to figure out if people have interest and things of that nature, right? And the problem is, Dr. Dave, there isn't one step. It's just a series of things to try to find what that right message is, what that right combination of products that you need to offer is, and then figuring it out. What I would say is probably the most important thing that I learned on the journey that kind of help with it. Okay, let me drop that for you, Dr. Dave. And so I'll hold off on part of that conversation. Um, so there you go, Dr. Dave. So I'm going to assume you're going to join me. Let me go ahead and get my headset ready, because otherwise we're going to end up clashing. So let me get that headset going, so then we can at least get that. So then we'll be good to go. So come on and join me, Dr. Dave, and we'll talk about it. Yeah, P Bell. We got to a 1K. I think that we're gonna go for 3K next year. Um, yeah, I think that's gonna be part of the goal. So we're gonna talk about smart goals next week, and I think 3K is gonna be the number that we're gonna go after for next year. So getting from 1K to 3K, so adding 2,000, is what I'm thinking. Okay, so that is gonna be, you know, part of the interesting journey that we're gonna have to do, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I just gotta figure out what I gotta do to make that happen. So I'm trying to put a couple things in place to help me, but I haven't gotten the right people in place for it. So that may take me a little bit longer, but the idea is that I'm really thinking about adding 2K people to the channel. So we're trying to get them 3K. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see. It's gonna be interesting. Somebody told me to split the difference and go to 2,500, but why not go for 3K? It ain't gonna kill me if I don't make it. That's the way I kind of feel about it, right? But I'm gonna feel like that anyway. because it's just me, and I don't mind going for something that's going to stretch me, because even if I get to 2,500, I'd be happy. 2,000, I'd be happy. I'm happy with 5 people, right? I'm happy with a couple people just saying, "Hey, we actually listen to you a little bit." So that being said, if you haven't liked, subscribed, all that kind of stuff, please do that. I think most people have here, but please like and subscribe. That's a good thing to do, because it helps the channel out. And I'll be pushing that more next year. Probably this year, my biggest problem has been I never mention it. Like I was saying, half of the more than like 60, 70% of the videos, I never mentioned about like and subscribe. I just was never thinking about that. I'm sorry. I'm not a YouTuber guy, and I didn't create the channel to make it go viral. If it goes viral, great. That means we can do more stuff, um, and then kind of go from there. So that would be interesting. That would be a beautiful thing and super interesting. But I don't kind of, I don't set expectations too high for myself. No, actually, I set expectations really high for myself. If you know anything about me, I set really high expectations for myself, and I go knock them out the park. That's what I do, right? That's absolutely what I do, right? Um, and so that works well for me. Um, and I would hope it works well for y'all too. As I'm waiting, I think Dr. Dave is gonna join me. But any other questions that you all have? Dave may not be joining me. We'll see. We'll see. But I dropped the link in the chat, so the request is there. So, and I got everything on, so we should be good. So yeah. So any other questions that you all have, drop them in the chat. We're just kind of good. Yeah, we're good. I'm good, but I'm always good, right? I don't really have too many complaints, but I won't have too many complaints anyway, because it is what it is. Yeah, nothing really bad about it. But that being said, any other questions? I'm looking on LinkedIn as well to double check to see if there's any other questions here. Shows waiting for host. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm sitting here. Let me do this and restart it. Let me see. There you go. I had to restart it. I don't understand why. So there we go. So what I'm going to do, Dr. Davis, go ahead and add you. Let me go ahead and get this going right and get our guest in here. Dr. Dave, what's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Let me just wait, allow me to turn this stuff off over here. There you go. Over here, just bring this down. Yeah, man. I was just over in your other channel listening to you. So, I saw you pop up. I'm like, hey, man, let me just
Hey.
see what you got going on today.
Yeah, no, no, no. One thing is that I was gonna have this show on Wednesday, but then I moved it back to Monday because I had something I had to do. Goddaughter birthday, then they canceled everything, and so I was like, I'm still gonna have the show on Monday, and so normally we'd have a lot more people here because I changed it. I messed up. So next week we're gonna talk about SMART goals, but this week we've been talking about time and freedom. That's what we've been talking about, and people trying to make some real changes because I think you can with this agile stuff. I really do, right?
Well, you can. I agree with you. So no, I was really intrigued by the topic. uh, because it's one of those things that's on my mind of work that I want to do in 2024 is,
Yeah,
how do I gain more freedom? And one of the things is you noted is like freeing up some time, and
yeah.
that's one of the things that I'm moving
What's
forward with.
what's what's
So
so let's say this first of all, so you all know, Doctor, you hear that? Doctor Dave is no lightweight here. He has a business. He out here doing great agile stuff. Out here doing great stuff in the community. Got whole conferences that he run. Got big businesses that he work with. So we're not talking to a lightweight here. Matter of fact, I should be asking him all the questions. Is what it boils down to.
hey, I am open to learning and sharing. You know how it goes, right? Well, that's how we roll. You know.
Well, here's the deal. Let me say this big thing to you that I think is important. Okay. Probably over the past couple years, what I found out is that, especially when it comes to work beyond certification, people are looking for enhanced opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
That's primarily what they pay money for, is enhanced opportunity. And I think when I did the bankable breakthrough event, I did not present an enhanced opportunity that would get those people to show up and actually click, hey, I'm going to go ahead and buy this. I'm going to go ahead and join this. And so when you have a certification class, getting the cert is the enhanced opportunity,
Right.
especially if it's one that sits around and it's there. But when you don't have a cert and it's all new and everything else, you have to get a value proposition of what the enhanced opportunity will be. Because if you really think about it, if somebody came to you today and offered you anything, the thing that you would pay money for is enhanced opportunity. That's the key,
Sure. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so now when you think about this sort of this class that you're creating, right? The question becomes beyond businesses, right? Because businesses got money to pay as much money or as little money as possible, and you get business and corporate clients, you skyrocket. But what about the everyday person that you're trying to get to? Those people, I guess, and businesses are looking for enhanced opportunity as well. They all are
Sure.
looking for enhanced opportunity. So the question becomes, how can you present the offer so and then they see enhanced opportunity within the offer? That's the magic in the message. And that's the real thing that you need to experiment with, because I know my failure was my messaging did not present that enhanced opportunity. And I didn't make enough time to run the experiments to figure out what the right messaging was to create that enhanced opportunity. And so I know it's that. I knew I didn't have the right message, but I thought, hey, certified Scrum trainer, I have a business, I've rocked it, I can talk about those experiences. That wasn't enough. It just did not have the enhanced opportunity. And so the real question that you got to ask yourself in these experiments that you run, because I know you're talking about the thing that we talked about before, right? The
Yeah.
question
Yeah.
becomes, in this landscape with all these certifications that are associated with bodies that exist and they have clout, um, what is the enhanced opportunity that goes above and beyond what those people are doing over there, right? And people don't just go to learn. That's the key statement. Very few of us go to actually learn. There's some of us that like to learn for the sake of learning, but most of us that's learning for the sake of learning, we already got stuff, and we looking for enhanced opportunity in other areas, right? And so the real question is really around that piece right there and the messaging behind that, because we're in this space in the internet where anybody can present a message, right? And I see people who have way less experience than you and I, um, that have just gotten their message right, and
Yeah.
they get way more clients than us.
Yeah. And I get that. I mean, one thing I've discovered about myself is I am an innovator, and so it's interesting that I don't know how to sell well.
Yeah.
So I joined a group
Hmm.
where I'm learning about how to message, how to speak to the with him. What's in it for me, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what everyone comes, right? It's like you're saying, and that's opportunity. I'm just using an old language of what's in it for me, right? And so, I mean, that's part of the realization of how do we learn um, so that we could do better messaging.
Dude.
When you brought that out, I said, man, I have to sit in and I have to sit up straight.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
again,
and
listen,
it really is, Dr. Dave. It really is. I've had to take classes to learn how to sell better,
yeah,
and one of the guys who I took class with, he still actually does work. Um, I can send you his information if you'd like me
yeah,
to.
please, please, please,
Yeah.
and I'll pay you
Um,
off. Yeah,
yeah, they just recently sent me an email, man. And we took the class years ago, man. It was so helpful. Um, and, they actually had, husband, wife, team, and their business works, right? It really does work. But when I say to you, I mean, yeah, it was great. But that learning how to get that messaging right in that sale, you almost can't beat it, man. And I mean, it just is one of those things where it's just like, you just got to get that messaging right. And then
yeah,
I mean, and at this point, in terms of, as most of us, in terms of agile, you know, we know how to run experiments. That we
right,
know how to
yeah,
run, right? If you've been around agile and IT, you kind of know how to run experiments. Um,
yeah,
I would say, let's see, I think Malik has said something here, and Malik has said, think of it as not selling something, but offering them something they need, understanding the want and how to deliver a catch that draws someone in. I think that's good advice, Malik. I would add to that, one of the things that I've kind of turned my pitch toward is thinking to myself that I'm serving the community in some kind of way. So it isn't a sale. So it isn't a sale at all. It is more of an offer, you
right.
know, offer for them to join us or not join us. Um, but again, the statement is, if there's no enhanced opportunity associated with it, they're not joining you anyway.
Yeah,
And so within that, that's the reason why I say you got to figure out who that right fit client is. And then you also, Dr. Dave, got to make sure that you know, certain things about yourself, like what is your non-negotiables going to be? And those non-negotiables are going to be really, really important. So it's like with me, I'm going to, in the future, when I do any programs, it'll be group coaching, not individual one-on-one, right? I don't want to do one-on-one stuff. I want to do group stuff, right? And so one of my non-negotiables would be that, unless it's a paying client, right? And so it's just one of those things is figuring out your non-negotiables, combining that with your right fit client, so you can take those two things and figure out what things you need to package together to turn that right fit client into that raving fan. Um, and that just takes running those experiments, and the thing is that there's nothing that prevents you from using LinkedIn and Facebook to figure
right.
out if your message works through paid advertising. And I'm not talking about
Yeah,
running crazy paid advertising, like come up a little bit, right? Because you can find your markets there, especially when you think about Facebook. People don't think Facebook sells, but Facebook sells a lot.
it does.
Um,
Yeah,
and LinkedIn, I haven't really cracked LinkedIn, but obviously LinkedIn sells a lot too. And so the question becomes, how do you message right on those different platforms or organically to be able to get people to continuously engage? All really, really important. But realistically, I think that first thing, man, is figuring out who that right fit client is and what that enhanced opportunity is going to be. You get those two down, you get butts in the seat.
that's what I'm working on, man. I know you've done it, so that's why I'm coming to
Yeah,
you. I was like, hey,
yeah.
talk.
And yeah, and realistically, that right there is, and it's just, and the truth, Dave, has been trial and error. Because when we first started Bearded Eagle, we was offering classes for free, um, just to kind of get butts in the seat to figure out what worked and what didn't work, get some social proof, so and then people can see that our style worked, and then it was off to finding the right fit client. And I think our niche in the very beginning was weekend classes because there was nobody doing weekend classes.
Mm.
And our right fit client was consultants or people who could not take a day off during the week. So we started out, once we started doing weekend classes, we'd end up with 20, 30, 40 people in the class on the weekend in different cities. And this was before the COVID thing hit because once, we go to New York and have that number. We can go to Atlanta and have that number. We can go to DC and have that number on the weekend, or just on the weekend, right?
Mm.
But that was because nobody in the Scrum Alliance was doing weekend classes.
No,
But
that's a great find.
but think about it. What was I? I was a consultant that got paid by the hour. And so what would I prefer to have? A weekend class. And so I really was serving me is what I was doing. And once that clicked, it's what we ran with. And then a lot of other people in the Scrum Alliance started doing it after that. But literally, when I say to you, our right fit client really took us going down that path. I mean, the enhanced opportunity was a certification, right? So that part was easy, right? But it was finding that right fit client and they looked just like me. They, and they looked just like me, one, and then two, they were consultants. They were
Mm.
consultants. They were people who couldn't take that weekday time off. They was career changers who really still had their career, and we just advertised specifically to them. And that right there is what locked Bearded Eagle in. But
No,
it took us a
that's
year
beautiful.
to find that. I mean, it took us a year to find that day.
Yeah, you know. No, I was watching a special on Tyler Perry recently,
Hmm.
and looking at how he created his niche,
Yeah,
right, to be able to, have such a thriving business, and it makes a lot of sense, right? It makes a lot of sense. So,
yeah. And so it was great. And Miss White here says to me, I was in a weekend class and it was a lifesaver. When I say to you it was a killer, it was
yeah,
it was a killer because I mean when I say to you nobody was offering that, and it just was a killer. And so we kind of lucked up on that, but it did take us a while to figure it out, you know. And then when I first did that first class in Indy, I literally got like three big corporate clients out of that. Like the
mm,
first weekend class I did in Indy, and like when I got the CST in 2013, we started Bearded Eagle in 11, and we just trying to da 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 da. Then in 2013, still trying to figure it out. 2014, started hitting home runs with that weekend class. And we would take it from city to city to city every few months to make it work. Like for real. And that literally worked for us, right? So that's how we built that name. And then when we got them in, I just put on a show. I just put on a show as a trainer. And putting on a show as a trainer did what? It turned them from being just right fit clients to raving fans because they're not going to get a Baptist preacher in a room to teach them Scrum.
that's true. You have a very unique and very compelling style that I really
Right.
appreciate.
And
Yes.
that combination is the reason why we have so many people that like us because we started off first figuring out who that right fit client was.
Mm.
And that, you know, that has led us to, at this point, having probably a 90% referral rate in classes. 90%. So, but it really was, and I didn't realize it at that time. Right fit client, enhanced opportunity combination, turning those people when we gave them the service into raving fans. That was the three steps. But finding that right fit client is one of the biggest problems. Finding that right message to offer enhanced opportunity, those two are the big problems. But when you get them in the room, turn them into a raving fan, that's the easiest part.
That I could handle. It's that
Yeah,
upfront
that you can
stuff.
handle.
So that's what I'm learning. This is what I'm learning. It's from being in this group is learning how to tell stories that really connect with people, so that you can have greater connections, and
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, which is really
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's the same stuff. So you already know that if you have any thoughts about something and want to bounce them off somebody, just connect with me.
yeah. I know where to find you.
Call the bat phone, man. I don't know. I
That's
don't know. You
right.
should call the bat phone, brother. I don't know why you won't call the bat phone, but call the bat phone. Because if I need
I'll be
something,
calling.
I'm calling you.
That's right. Well, I'm there. No, no, I got you. I have something now. I have something that's packaged and ready to go. So
Okay.
I'm ready to talk to you.
Okay. All right. Then that's good. Then the next big thing is identify that right fit client, and then that messaging becomes key.
Yeah,
And I can definitely help you with that.
yeah, for sure. I'm gonna send
And
that
we
out.
good to go, Dr. Dave. You need anything else,
All right,
brother, before we actually have a private conversation?
that's it. I just wanted to see you, man, and I'll talk to you before the holidays anyway.
Okay.
So
All right, then we're
happy
good, Dr.
holidays.
Dave. So then I will see you soon. I appreciate you coming on.
Yep.
I don't get to talk about this very often, so this is a welcome topic.
Yeah, yeah. I figured I had to come in, and I love the topic. I just want to let you know that I love it.
This is good. All right, then, Dr.
All
Dave, we'll
right,
talk
brother.
soon, okay? All right,
All
see
right,
you later,
Doc.
my friend.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye. Now, I'm going to say this to you, man. There's a lot of nuggets in that information. And if you trying to really have if you really have trying to have freedom of any kind, you should take those nuggets. Like this whole hour, I think should be one of the most valuable hours for you, right? Seriously. Because that information people don't give away for free. So just so you know, FYI. So next week, next Monday, we're gonna talk smart goals. Okay, so just be prepared to come in and bring in your 2024 smart goals. So we'll talk that next week, and that might be where we round out the year at. So on that note, I'm gonna say thank you all for being here with me. Replay this as much as you need to, but I will see you next week. Peace, peace. See you soon.